actually turns out. Now,
Yeah, definitely.
seeing how this is the losers round, this also means that whoever actually loses this has no chance of further advancing the tournament. He is out. So we are starting right now with Starcruncher versus Mallix. And of course, the beginning section of the game, not too much to save here in terms of time until you unlock the dash at the end of the bridge, which Starcruncher is about to do.
Yeah, actually there is a minimal time save you can do by constantly jumping, like our player is showing it, because every jump boosts you a little bit forward, but it only saves like 1 or 2 seconds throughout the entire prologue perfectly played. So I don't know. it's something, but prologue is actually not that important.
Yeah, I mean the biggest time saves are probably coming right up at the Celestial Resort, don't they?
Yeah, probably. Like there are some pretty dirty time loses you can get in every chapter, to be honest. So yeah, let's see how they do it. So going through a little bit of the speed text. So there are all different kinds of different dashes we can use. Like we have our regular dash, but we can combine it with a jump, and then we can do something like a hyper dash where we get like dash a very far distance in a very short time. Then there's a dash jump, which is also faster than a normal dash, but gets a little bit more of a height than a hyper dash. Then we can do wall bounces. When we dash up a wall, we transfer the momentum of the dash into the wall jump. And all the different kind is very like, you have to master all of these things in order to speedrun this game properly.
Yeah, definitely, and there's so many opportunities to route the simple rooms, as in, do I do a wave dash here, or do I do a normal dash? Is it extended or not? Can I use a wall bounce here, or should I not? There's a lot of options to consider, and that also means that for every screen there are easier routes and harder routes for you to save time, but also potentially risk losing even more time if you do mess it up.
Yeah.
So right now, Mallix has a little bit of an advantage. I think it's about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how exactly that happened. I think there was a little bit of a mistake in an important room there from Starcruncher. I think it was the one where you have to dash into a corner, extend it, and then go over the spikes. I think that was
I also would say Starcruncher died once more than Mallix, so there's also a little bit more for time loss. But so far, yeah, both runners using more or less the similar strats. I think Starcruncher using a little bit faster strats. I would actually say that Starcruncher's early game is like very similar to Mallix in terms of their speed. But the big difference is in the late game. Mallix late game is not as good as Starcruncher, so let's see if he can build up a good lead in the early game, hopefully, and don't lose too much in the late game.
Yeah, honestly, I see mistakes made here and there, but so far it does seem pretty even.
Yeah, definitely.
Like a big mistake could decide it at any time, and I think we're gonna have to wait a bit until we actually see whether somebody has to play from disadvantage.
So yeah, in chapter 2 we have those dream blocks you already see, and we can dash through them, and we will get our dash back. A lot of people, casually and speedrun wise, love these dream blocks because it's such a nice way to travel around in the game.
Yeah, it actually looks pretty fun. Also, you can jump as you exit these dream blocks, which moves your momentum a little bit more upwards, which is something that the game only explains at the very end of it and not when the dream blocks first appear. So that's also one topic that this game covers really well. There is a lot of advanced movement technique that the game will teach you, but it will not overwhelm you at the very beginning when you're still getting used to everything in a casual playthrough, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, with the idea of the developers making this game a speedrun, or a game for speedrunning, it was a very good way to implement that, I would say. So yeah, Star is now in the awake section, which is one of the more technical parts of this chapter, because you can do so many crazy things with hyper dashes and corner boosts. I forgot the name.
Yeah. And he's actually like almost 15 seconds ahead at this point. He finished the stage at 3:57, while Mallix is not quite there yet and already on 4:07. So might be a little bit of an advantage you're building already for Starcruncher. Let's hope Mallix does not let himself get too nervous over this. I think I've saw seen a few things where I'm pretty sure he knows how to do them, but maybe I don't know if he's maybe getting a little bit nervous or maybe he has cold hands. I think he's definitely better than what he's shown in that chapter right now.
Yeah. Also, I know Mallix a little better than most, like, because he's a very good friend of mine in terms of like the streaming community, and I know he has also somewhat of an like confident and self-confident issue. Like he's rarely believing in himself, which like also is somewhat of a disadvantage for him. Let's hope he won't get like crushed under this.
Funnily enough, that's also one of the topics that Celeste discusses as a game, right?
Yeah, it's actually like a lot of people I think got over this throughout the game, or actually understood it better, maybe. I don't know. It helped me at least. But yeah, now in Resort, and Resort is pretty cycle-based, that's why most people don't like it in a speedrun. Yeah,
you see these blobs actually running around, and they are spell trouble for many people. They're called dust creatures, and the interesting thing is that they have different cycles depending on whether you entered the room as a transition or whether you died. So as a runner, you have to learn a strategy for when you die in the room, but you also have a different strategy for many of these rooms if you enter them from another room. And that's also what makes it tough in a speedrun, because it's probably not exactly twice as many strats you need to learn. There's many rooms you can't die in, but of course there are many rooms where you just need to be prepared if something goes wrong.
Yeah, like when I die in some rooms where I never die, I'm so screwed, because like I have no clue how the death cycle works. So having a death cycle as a backup plan is actually very like can be very helpful. So yeah, Starcruncher is dying here and there a little bit, and Mallix is actually catching up only one room away or behind.
That is actually true. I just noticed that Starcruncher has lost a little bit of his edge towards Mallix here. Let's actually see, he hit the blob at 6:07, and Mallix is probably going to arrive there like 10 seconds later, which means he saved like 10 seconds of time compared to what he finished the earlier chapter with.
Yeah. Also... No, go ahead.
Also, what I find really fascinating about this is how close sometimes these speedrun strats edge towards death. Like, they know exactly how much time they have to do something, and to me it often looks like they are actually running into one of these dust creatures. Like, okay, I'm pretty sure that he's supposed to die here, but just barely scraping by. It's very fascinating in these cycle-based levels if they really have the strats down.
Yeah, it's actually really impressive. Like, I think I can speak for every runner when they also like get into situations where they definitely thought, okay, I'm dead now, but somehow they still survived it. Like, yeah, sometimes it's like prepared that we will just don't die, but sometimes we even like don't believe it ourselves that we survived that somehow. But also very interesting, like only Madeline's body has a hitbox and not her head. Like, that's something most like casuals don't know, obviously, so that's something that can mislead you. Or
yeah, that's actually news to me, so I didn't know about that.
Like, you can really go with your head very deep into spikes or things that kill you. But yeah, they are neck on neck again, like nearly one room, like nearly in the same room all the time.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. I don't think the time is exactly synced up, so sometimes you have to estimate a little bit, but it is more or less one room of a difference. And especially in a cycle-based place like this, it can happen off of one mistake. I think there's a few rooms where a mistake will actually cost you about the time that these two guys are apart right now.
Yeah, especially like in the upcoming, like we are pretty close to Oshiro's section, or some of these rooms are pretty long, so if you die at the end of it, you definitely lose quite a lot of time. Like, that's also a bad thing in this chapter, or a thing that make this chapter difficult, I would say, to stay consistent at.
So Starcruncher entering the section at 8:25. Let's see if he can pull it off consistently. Meanwhile, Mallix exactly 9 seconds behind right now.
So yeah, we see already Oshiro is appearing. Oshiro is like the hotel owner, but he got mad at us because of Madeline, but that's something like that story-wise, you don't have to know why he's actually mad getting mad at us. But now he's chasing us and trying to kill us, and we have to run away from him. And you see, like, he's like being always at the height as you are at, and after a certain amount of time he's going to charge at you. And in a run, like, we have threats to, like, where Oshiro never is a problem, or going to be a problem, but when you mess up, Oshiro can definitely kick your ass and being very, like, unfair to you. So yeah, Starcruncher finished the chapter with 5:14 as a chapter time, and I think Mallix is actually saving time in this chapter, 5:10, so saved 4 seconds there. Good job by Mallix.
Done a little bit of a catch-up. If you repeat that, it is definitely not the 2-minute difference that their PBs would indicate so far. That is definitely to be said. Now we are in the next chapter of the game. This is called Golden Ridge, right?
Yeah. And
what's the gimmick of this stage?
Golden Ridge has its main gimmick is the wind, you will see right now, and the wind is like only affecting your like normal walk and your normal movement, and dashes are not getting affected by the wind. That's why in the speedrun you don't have as many problems in this chapter as you might have as a casual runner, because as a casual runner I think most people got like annoyed by the wind. It's so slow and you just want to finish this chapter. And in the speedrun we are hyper dashing through this wind, and we are finishing each room like with normal movement speed, it feels like. So there's not that much of a difference for a runner. And then there are some other gimmicks like those bubbles we already saw, moving block on Mallix on Starcrunsher's stream, and those clouds to jump off.
Yeah, it's actually incredible. I really like about this game the fact that every single chapter feels a little bit different due to them really focusing on separate mechanics for every chapter. And
yeah,
this is actually the reason why I asked which gimmick is this chapter, because you could look at it as a little bit of a gimmick. Of course, every chapter has some gimmick happening. While we're talking about that, Mallix unfortunately failing a strat that I think would have saved him a lot of time there.
Yeah, but the problem is even with that strat, it loses you even more time if you fail it, because you have to go back to the block and you have to like get the block pushed to the like actual place where you do the skip, and this takes a lot of time because the blocks are very slow. Like they are slower than your walking speed, and walking speed is already slow.
Yeah. Now, how far are these guys apart right now?
Yep. Probably, I think, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that. I would say. Like, yeah, Mallix lost a lot of time, and Starcruncher is so far playing a really good Golden Ridge, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, he's looking very solid there. Every death that I see on Starcruncher's stream right now is like a low impact death that only really costs him like up to 3 seconds, I feel like. While Mallix had a few unfortunate ones that seemed like they really pack a punch.
Yeah, definitely.
Now Starcruncher going against the wind here.
Yeah, he entered the heavy wind section where the wind, like, you can't normally move here. When you're walking, you will like make 1 pixel per second, it feels like.
Wow, Mallix going for a pretty good strat here again. It seemed pretty risky, but I think he's only like 2 rooms at max.
No, they're exactly in the same room. No, they're
actually in the same room now, no. So Mallix actually caught up. His stream is 4 seconds behind, so if we see them in exactly the same spot, it means he still needs to catch up those 4 seconds. Considering he was like 8 seconds behind after Celestial Resort, that is actually a very good catch up from him. I think that
he's actually behind now.
Yeah, I think the risks in his strats actually paid off here.
Yeah, also the fact that Starcruncher lost a lot of time in a very big room of the heavy wind section, where a death at the end costs you like 10 seconds.
I didn't see that happened. That's unfortunate for Starcruncher.
So yeah, both runners finishing with a... Okay, Starcruncher finishing with a 3:31 this chapter, and Mallix with a 3:25, so he catched up again. And he's not too far behind anymore.
So now we are going to the Mirror Temple. And the Mirror Temple consists of multiple mechanics again. You have bubbles, but these bubbles carry you indefinitely until you cancel it with a dash. You have these platforms that move along their grid as soon as you dash, which you need to sometimes be careful with, but you can also use it for momentum. And then as we progress into the level, there will also be our first and I believe one of 2 encounters with, let's say, an enemy, right? Seeker.
Yeah, but what's your Oh, yeah, okay, I know what's your... But the first encounter with an enemy I would call Oshiro, actually.
That's true. So there's actually more than just 2. I was mistaken there.
So yeah, what Starcruncher actually tried there, we didn't talk about that. When you skip a cutscene, your like X position on the, like, you know, on the X is getting saved, but is not getting saved, but your Y level is getting saved. So he tried to do their nice skip, skipping the cutscene and being on the switch at the top already. We used a similar trick earlier in chapter 2, just as a fun fact. You can also end up being inside a block and have to reset, otherwise you can't progress because Madeline can't jump out of the block, obviously. So yeah, now they're entering the mirror like in 1 second. Both runners are actually pretty close to each other.
Yeah, that's actually very intense right now, especially since we can't properly tell the time, but yeah, both of them really scrounging to make 0 mistakes right now, and looking forward to how this whole run develops. Now what happens here is they control the Seeker, they need to find Madeline, and now we are in a different kind of mirror temple, where you will see that the scenery has changed a little bit. It seems way more hostile. And that on the right is Madeline, who we've seen in chapter 2 already, but now she's back, and in terms of a casual playthrough, she would explain many story-related things to us, but since in a speedrun we skip all of these cutscenes, she's basically just somebody that forces us to enter the menu to skip it.
Yeah, definitely. And there are our lovely Seekers we talked about earlier.
So what they do is once they see you, they dash towards you, but they can also help you collect these seals. What are they exactly called? These coins, yeah.
Coins.
So as soon as the player collects all the coins, there is a block somewhere in the room that is also marked by all these coins, and that block will move. Or the door will open in the case of Mirror Temple, and that makes for some interesting strats as you try to manipulate the Seeker, just like you saw at Starcruncher's side. He tried to manipulate the Seeker to hit 2 of these coins. Unfortunately, it only worked for 1 of them. It makes for some interesting routing and strats here on this chapter, and I think this is also a place where it can make a huge difference in a race.
Yeah, definitely, and you just saw Mallix got a pretty good Seeker section, and Starcruncher was failing a few of those strats, and now he's falling behind. Mallix now upcoming with like the very bread and butter like skip you have to learn in the speedrun, which is the search skip. Normally you have to collect 2 keys in this area in order to progress, but because there is a nice skip you already saw with a nice speedrun techniques, you can actually skip that entire section. It saves like 1 to 2 minutes. Like nobody really knows because nobody ran through this in any percent run ever. So yeah.
And isn't it like known by the developers and they intentionally left it in, or was there like a story like that?
They found it like in the development. They saw the skip, and like at the very end of the developing stage, they found out about the skip, and they just said, okay, we should probably leave that in for the speedrunners. But it was not like they didn't build that room intended for speedrunning in the first place. They just found out about it later on.
Now we are in the Theodore section, named after the person who is inside the crystal that we are carrying on both of these streams.
Unfortunate death by Mallix there.
And it makes for some interesting movement as they collect the crystal while they are dashing, and then they retain their momentum, which makes for these crazy zips like you saw at Starcruncher's stream just now.
Yeah, like Theo movement is like, when you're starting out with that speedrun, you have to learn Theo movement on its own. Like, it's so much different. And yeah, both runners are actually overall doing a pretty good job controlling with Theo. Like, definitely, like Starcruncher is going mostly for those ultra dash Theo strategies, which are so much faster but also very hard to pull off consistently. And yeah, he finished Mirror Temple, I think, yeah, with a sub 5, which is pretty good.
Yeah, definitely paying off for him, the fact that he went so far. But I think Mallix could also be contending for a sub 5. Almost, but he didn't quite get it there.
Yeah, he got a little bit of a struggle in that last room.
So now we are in chapter 6, which is Reflection, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so there's a few more mechanics here, but the first one you can see is these feathers. If the player collects them, he gets to control himself freely as he flies throughout the level. And this expires after a while, so you need to collect new feathers or continue moving as Madeline.
yeah, and during your explaining of that, Starcruncher got leg skip on the second try. He died once, so he probably saved still 1 second. I don't know exactly, but I think he still saved time. Like, leg skip perfectly done saves 4 seconds, and dying there lose maybe 2. So yeah, he still saved time.
Now these blocks that you see, they are named Kevin blocks, right?
Yeah, and the story behind that is pretty funny because we just call them, like, they have a completely different name. I actually don't know right now, but we call them Kevin blocks in the speedrun community because Kevin from Power Up Audio made the sound of that Kevin blocks while holding his head into a bucket of water and making brrrr.
If you listen when
like
Starcruncher hits one of these blocks, you'll be able to hear that sound effect.
Yeah, it's very funny. I like those blocks a lot. I think everybody does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty funny game mechanic when I heard that the first time. Now, these pinball bumpers are also a pretty cool thing, but I think if you watch them from a speedrunner perspective, as someone who watches any percent, they look pretty easy to control compared to what it actually feels like to play with these pinball bumpers. For me, in a casual playthrough, they did not do what I wanted them to do at all. So I'm very impressed with Starcruncher here, and Mallix, of course, handling them well as too.
You have to be somewhat precise in order to like get boosted where you want to, like, get launched by the bumper. It's actually very hard to be consistent with bumpers. Like, I can't think about any runner yet who is very consistent with bumpers. Like, nobody likes bumpers in the terms of a speedrunner. Oh, Starcruncher is going for feather skip. Let's see if he goes again for it. Yeah, he's going again for it. That saves a little bit of time.
Does it also save time if you failed it and do a second?
I don't think so. Then, no. When you died, it won't save time. Like, this chapter is very, like, how to say it? Like, when you fail in most of the rooms in Reflection, you will lose a lot of time because the rooms are long, and in most rooms you have to travel with a feather, and feather is way slower than just hyperdashing through a room consistently. But you can't hyperdash because there's no ground to hyperdash off, really. So, yeah, most deaths in this chapter cost like 5 to 10 seconds, which is very big.
Yeah, and now Starcruncher entering what is soon entering another enemy fight here, and I think the only actual fight that you need to win in Celeste, if you can call it that, which is the Badilin fight. Now that purple-haired reflection of ours, we've seen all game, goes very hostile at this point, and as the player you need to bump into her over and over to convince her that actually you're their friend, right?
Yeah, that's like story-wise. Talking about that fight. That fight actually is, for most people, probably the most favorite part. Like, very obviously. It's a lot of fun to play through this. In the speedrun it feels also very amazing. Like, there are some pretty cool strats. Let's see what Starcruncher is going to do. Meanwhile, Mallix also got that huge skip with the cabin block from the previous room, entering the fight. So yeah.
I have to say that in this chapter, it's very difficult for me to actually watch both streams at the same time. I think Starcruncher took a pretty bad death there.
Yeah, as we said earlier, if you die here, you lose a lot of time. And he died. It was one of the less costlier deaths. Like, he probably lost 5 seconds, but it's still, like, a time loss is a time loss, you know? But yeah, so far he's doing good. He's not pulling off too crazy strats. Neither is Mallix doing so far, what I'm seeing.
Yeah, both, of course, if the chapter is as difficult as you say in terms of risk-reward for single deaths, then of course you would want to go for consistent strategies here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember now. This room is pretty huge. I think if you die here at the end, that's at least 10 seconds, right?
Yeah, that's one of the more costly rooms. Like all these fall down and still hitting Battlein rooms are very costly because you have to get yourself launched into Battlein and then she launches you away, then you have to fall again. Like it's very, very costly. Now Starcruncher is in the second phase of the fight where everything starts to go a little bit more crazier.
Yeah, and he definitely has a leg up on Mallix in terms of the in-game time right now. And that one death is probably not going to shake it too much, as that actually probably only cost about 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah, it was not too costly. This is another huge room for Starcruncher. Let's hope he won't die. It's probably the longest room with the last room. Like that's the second last room, and now the last room is coming up for him. Okay, that's not a costly death, but if he dies now, he will lose a lot of time.
Oh, he zipped past those spikes so closely.
Yeah, like in most chapters, the spike hitbox is actually very small. Like all spikes are having like the spikes that are the closest to the actual hitbox are the spikes in City, and even those are bigger than the actual hitbox. So yeah.
And now that we see on Starcruncher's stream right now that he has pink hair, which actually means that Madeline has come to terms with Battlein, and that means that you have 2 dashes before you need to touch the ground in order to refresh, which is also shown as a little level up icon that you're going to see on Mallix's stream soon. And with that, Starcruncher enters the last chapter of an any percent run, which is the Summit. It is also the longest of the any percent run, as he has a little bit of a recap of each chapter and their own mechanics before he goes into a huge climb in order to actually finish the game. So this is the climax of any percent.
Yeah, a lot of things can still be decided in this chapter. Like if Starcruncher has a very terrible summit, it still can be Mallix's win. By the way, Mallix got, while you were explaining the summit, got a pretty crazy save, so shout outs to Mallix for that save. I think, yeah, most of you saw it in chat, like Revo is already shouting out him too.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what's the deficit he's going in? Probably around 25 or 30 seconds here, I would estimate. Which actually means, yeah, in a long chapter like Summit, it is not only in Starcruncher's hands to not make mistakes. I think Mallix also has the wiggle room to force his own things here if he does go for strategies that end up saving him time. If he does the same kind of performance that he did on, I think it was Golden Ridge, where he just saved a crazy amount of time, that would be sick for him.
Yeah, would definitely make the race pretty close, but yeah, Starcruncher is still has still to make some mistakes in order to give Mallix a chance to like catch up. Starcruncher meanwhile going for, like, I don't know how to call the skip, but it's actually a skip. When you touch the zipper earlier in order to get launched by metal and very high.
And that's actually one of the examples I meant when I said that there are many strategies for every room, because I think I've seen that one done in another fashion that's probably 5 seconds slower but way easier to execute. And this is also a very nice thing about this game, where you can express yourself by the skill you have acquired as a speedrunner. If you see someone's gameplay here in this game, you instantly know how good they are by which strategies they are going for.
Yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned earlier that Starcruncher's late game is very good, and I see exactly what you mean now. Some of these things he does right now are absolutely crazy. But Mallix so far pretty consistent, I believe, in the Summit, which is also, like, the hard part is yet to come, right?
Yeah, definitely the hardest part in Summits, in my opinion, are like 1,500 meters. Starcruncher is soon going to enter, and yeah, also 3,000 meters is pretty difficult. Like everything from 1,500 meters till the end is actually pretty difficult. Oh no, Starcruncher actually trying to skip the cutscene too early, and he died there. Like when you the same. Skipping cutscenes and retrying a room is the same input, so he thought he can skip the cutscene already, but he was unable to, so he lost a lot of time.
I see Mallix actually going for the exact same strats that Starcruncher was going for earlier, so that seems to be working out fine for him. He has not taken any big deaths so far in the summit, from what I've seen.
Yeah, he's on a really good pace. I have to admit that too. But yeah, meanwhile, Starcruncher is in the hardest part of the summit in most people's opinion. He's now in a very long room. Like, that's the biggest problem of this chapter. You have dust bunnies, so very tight movement in order to really save time. And then you have very long rooms, and if you die in one of those rooms, you actually can lose 15 seconds, it feels like. But yeah, so far he's doing a pretty good job. Now in the last room of 1500 with no big deaths, so yeah, very well done by Starcruncher.
Both of these players are having a pretty good summit right now, which is not good news for Mallix, honestly, as he would most likely prefer that Starcruncher messes up. But yeah, we are 3 minutes into the chapter. That is like a third of the chapter, so there's still plenty of things to happen. Starcruncher, I think, getting a pretty difficult way up, which I usually see people using screen transitions for. He is going at a really fast pace here. I'm actually very impressed with that.
Yeah, he's most of the time actually doing some ultra dashes. So ultra dashes is just you do an hyper dash and cancel it into another hyper dash. So you use the momentum you got from your previous hyper dash. He's going for auto scroller skip and got it first try. That saves a lot of time. Like, auto scroller skip can be very like crucial if you die there once or twice. You lose definitely 20 seconds, something like that. But he got it first try. It looks actually very easy on Starcruncher's screen.
Yeah, let me tell you that he makes it look easy, but it definitely isn't. On the other hand, Mallix, I believe, Starcruncher's stream right now getting, of course, a lot of more attention because he is first, but I think Mallix is playing the exact same way, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, maybe there are some slightly differences in a few rooms, but overall, in the terms of time and speed, they're pretty much doing the same.
Which of course means we are most... Oh no, I think Mallix taking a big one there.
Yeah, that room can be rough.
Yeah, that was probably like 7 or 8 seconds, which is now behind a little bit more. And that's super unfortunate because... what are their PBs actually? Do you know them off the top of your head?
Starcruncher is, I think, 42-37. And
30,
Mallix... Yeah? And Mallix is 34-34, I think. Or no, 34-32 too, I think. No, not 2, like, but I think 32-32, something like this.
Okay.
34-32.
Because I was going to say, even if Mallix keeps up at this pace, I think Mallix could actually PB this.
Probably not, because 1,500 meters is very, very long. Like, 1,500... What am I saying? I'm so stupid. 3,000 meters is like 3 minutes long.
Okay.
Even for godlike runners. Or for very good runners. Let's say Starcruncher's IL best in 3,000 is 3 minutes. And okay. Mallix should be now at 3,000, and there's still the Mirror Temple section of it. Oh, 30, the chat is already saying 32-47 is Starcruncher's PB. So I was kind of close. And Mallix is 34-33. I'm bad at numbers, sorry.
Oh, everything's good, man. Now we're at 3,000 meters. Is this already the big climb? Yes, this is already the big climb. So you see 29 of these checkpoints. Originally 30, but Starcruncher already touched the first one. And the last checkpoint marks the end of the any percent run. So this means Starcruncher's on the final stretch of the game now. And Mallix still working on that 2.5k until he finally reaches the 3k as well.
Also, an interesting thing, in the entire game, screen transitions worked as checkpoints for you. Like, when you die, you start at the screen transition. And now you have checkpoints in terms of these, like, little flags. And if you are very crazy and like think you won't fail, you will skip most of them in order to be very fast. But that can be very costly. Like, if you die, you will only restart at the flag you touched the last. But yeah, he's doing actually a really good job so far.
Yeah, Starcruncher's definitely on a pretty good pace, and unfortunately Mallix only now entering the 3k, which means he is somewhat like a minute and a half or a minute behind, if I'm not mistaken. So unless Starcruncher has a really bad ending of the summit, this is probably looking like a one race for him. But well, if this keeps up for Starcruncher, it might be in it then again for Mallix. But nah, he got past that spike. He good. Not much more left. That is 12 flags left on Starcruncher's side.
Yeah, Starcruncher is actually playing a really good summit. Like, I think his summit PB is... Like, I think he got once offline and sub 9 summit. But his official recorded summit PB is 9:16 or 9:13. He posted it yesterday on Twitter. Oh no, he's dying like 9. 2 times in a row already. There he goes.
Oh,
missing the bubble, but he saved it with neutral jumps, as always. So yeah, he is at the final stretch of summit, so only 5 flags left. We don't even have to touch the 5th flag in order to have their checkpoint. And yeah, there's not that many hard parts left, like only flag 2 in my opinion can be very rough. Flag 3 shouldn't be that big of a problem. He's a stick user, so the feather section is very easy for him.
Oh yes, of course, that is where the control scheme comes into play, but of course the same being the case for Mallix, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Now flag 2, if he not dies here, he should be done, because... Yeah, flag 1 is very free.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's finishing.
We have like
with
a pretty good time, sub 34.
Yeah, definitely. Mid 33 is pretty good. I think he's happy with his time.
Yeah, 33,
Mallix
38.
is struggling. So I think because in terms of interview, we just wait till Mallix finish in order to have them both here together.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. Yeah, let's wait it out. And of course, a little bit unfortunate for Mallix, but I think actually the race was very close up until I feel like Reflection was where it really fell apart here.
Yeah, Reflection, like it already started a little bit in Mirror Temple, but yeah, Reflection was definitely the big difference maker.
I feel like yeah, Mirror Temple was insane on Starcruncher's part. I think Mallix's performance was definitely par for the course on Mirror Temple, but Starcruncher just killed it there. And then Mallix, I think he had some unfortunate mistakes as well in Reflection, right? I'm not entirely too sure right now how exactly it went, but it's definitely around that area where it fell apart. And I feel like Mirror Temple was all on Starcruncher's account for actually playing that section of the game very well. And Mallix soon finishing the game on a 35.06. So unfortunately he lost the race, but this is still a very good time. And it is only 30 seconds off of his PB. So I think in terms of a race environment where you are, especially if you are somebody who's not very confident in his race performance, as you mentioned earlier, is definitely very respectable.
Yeah, he played very good. Let's see, like Starcruncher died 14 times more than Mallix did, but you just saw because he had a few harder strats in it, he just managed to save time off that.
Not only that, but Starcruncher's deaths, a lot of the time they were the kind of deaths that really only cost him like 2 or 3 seconds. While Mallix, I've seen some of them were a little bit of a heartbreak where he lost like 10 or 15 at a time.
So yeah, it seems like, one sec, we have our both runners in the setup, so we can join them, like they can join us in order to have an interview, if you don't mind. Okay.
Yeah, let's have them.
So, I don't know. Wait a sec. Okay, they're joining automatically. So yeah, first of all, GG's to Starcruncher and Mallix.
Yeah, GG's to
both of you.
Both
played very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, Connor.
No, everything's fine. I have to say that up until chapter 5, it looked extremely close. I think that is the point where it started drifting apart more and more. And that Mirror Temple performance, that actually looked super impressive from Starcruncher. So props to you, definitely. That looked very sick.
Yeah, I choked on reflection.
Yeah.
7-minute reflection. That's so bad.
You did, kind of. But actually, one thing I just remembered, you both entered simultaneously freaking mirror.
Yeah.
But I think Starcruncher was in in-game time a little bit behind, ahead already.
Yeah.
So, but still, it looked very impressive.
But I knew I was gonna lose before this race, so it's not a big deal that I lost.
Yeah. So, I don't know, Connor. Do you might have a question, because I can't think about a question right now.
Well, right now, honestly, I don't have too many questions. I mean, Mallix, you are 30 seconds away from your PB. Is this like a standout performance for you, or you'd say, yeah, that's pretty good, or are you more kind of a consistent guy who's always within this range?
I'm not very consistent, but lately I've been getting a few sub 35s. I think I was 7 seconds away from my PB just earlier today, but this was okay. I can't complain too much about getting a low 35 in a race setting.
And Starcruncher, you here?
Yes, it's the same with me generally. It's my consistency is sometimes not that good as it was today, and even today it felt way worse than the time says, to be honest.
Yeah, like when we looked at the death count, I was impressed that you have 14 more deaths, but it makes sense when I see you die right at the checkpoint. Of course, that won't cost much time. So these death counters not only important by the amount, but also the impact of a single death can differ.
Yeah. Luckily, most of my deaths were quite short, time-wise.
Yeah, so I think we're done. Congratulations, Starcruncher, for your win, and congratulations, Mallix, top 16 finish with 64 people. It's definitely no laughing matter. That is very great, and I wish you good luck in the next tournament. Yeah, I know.
GG,
I wish you
Mallix.
good luck in the next one.
Thank you.
So yeah, one final question, Starcruncher. Do you know who you are probably racing next? Like, is your
I think
opponent
it was
already decided? Who?
Moose?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting race, to be honest, I think. Like, what's this PB? It's a little faster than yours, isn't it?
Yes, but I don't know exactly what his PB is.
I think it's not a sub 32, so it's definitely going to be a very close race, I guess. But maybe chat knows. So yeah, I wish you good luck on your next race too. And yeah, GG's to Mallix for your good time and your good placing in this tournament. And I think we are done for today.
Yeah, so thank you very much for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks to Connor, who helped me out in the last minute, actually, with commentary.
No problem. Glad to help.
So yeah,
Thank you
follow the
too for
runners.
commentating.
Follow the runners if you're more interested in running. Like, Mallix is a pretty good runner, but don't get too much attention. And okay, Starcruncher is German, so if you don't mind German commentating, he's a very friendly guy, so might check him out too. He's a very good runner.
Actually, if you want to follow Mallix, I think his Twitch name is different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Grambies. So
yeah,
he's already...
GRAMBI, or you find him on speedruns, and I think it's probably linked in there.
So yeah.
Or we use the chat commands here.
Yeah, you use the check commands. That is smart.
So yeah, that's all we can say. And I think, yeah, thanks for the nice race. Thanks for commentary again, Connor. And I hope you all have a good day or night. Depends on what your time zone is.
Have a good one, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.